Welcome back to another episode of Harmonious at Lunch, the show that fuels your business success. I'm Brandon Gano, your host and guide through the world of harmonious business growth. Today, we're unlocking powerful strategies with industry experts to help your business thrive. If you're a business owner, entrepreneur, or executive, you are in the right place. Join me and our incredible guests today on the journey to clarity, growth, and success. It is time to revolutionize your approach to business. Let's dive in with another episode of Harmonious at Lunch. Welcome back into some more bite-sized business advice. And today's episode is going to be unlike any other that we've had on the show so far, but I'm excited about it and I can't wait to co-listen with you, I guess. I'm excited for you to hear this. If you own a business, if you have a team, I have a very special guest and a really interesting topic. 3 reasons why businesses should be more alcohol aware. That's right. We're talking about alcohol in this show in a completely different context than I think you've ever heard before. But let's just dive right in. My guest today, Duncan Bhaskaran Brown, welcome to the show and thank you for being here.
Oh, it's my absolute pleasure. I am really looking forward to getting into it.
So like I kind of teased there, we are definitely not going to be promoting big alcohol brands on this show today, I don't think. There will be no sponsorships from Jack Daniels or Budweiser on this show. But this is an interesting topic, and it's one that I've kind of explored in my own personal life. Why don't you tell me what you mean when we say why businesses should be more alcohol aware?
So I think everybody is obviously quite aware of alcohol. They've seen it, they've come across it.
Yeah.
We don't always have meaningful conversations about it. We often just sort of like make jokes about it, go to the pub and then kind of forget about it. And I think that what that means is a lot of businesses, they just miss these kind of obvious points and these kind of like really interesting opportunities around helping their employees to be a little bit better, around helping their workforce become a little bit more diverse, and just generally helping people to celebrate a little bit more. So there are 2 very interesting statistics that I think might kind of shock some of your listeners. One is that in a recent survey, 42% of employees said that they actively did not want social occasions to revolve around alcohol. So when businesses organize social events, they actively did not want them to revolve around alcohol. That's 42% of employees. And it's as little as 20% that actually do want them to revolve around alcohol. But what do most business socials revolve around?
Happy hour.
Yeah.
That's really interesting. So, I mean, if I'm no math wizard, but 42% actively don't want it. That means there's another 40% out there that you tell me, are they kind of in the middle? They could care less, or do those people kind of side towards the don't want it as well? Because I'm just thinking back to, events that I've been attending or helped plan or part of in some capacity. And it's always a very touchy topic, whether to have alcohol or access to a bar or not. So I'm curious, are we really talking 80-20 who don't want it or could kind of go either way?
So 40% actively don't want it for one reason or another. And now approximately 20% of the people in America and the United Kingdom don't drink ever anyway. So they're not going to be that interested in it. And then there are a lot of other people who are, endeavoring to limit their intake. Conception, medication, driving, got a big report due tomorrow morning. The 20% that actually want it, well, I mean, you could make a very cogent argument that more than 20% of Americans and Brits have a problem with drinking. So that's them. And then the 40% in the middle are probably pretty indifferent to it. They don't particularly care one way or another. They're not going to be offended if you have it. They're not going to be offended if you don't have it. However, so if you're out to upset the smallest amount of people, then don't have it.
Yeah, let's upset the 20%. It just seems easier. But okay, so I mean, I find this fascinating. Actually, I was not aware of those stats. So in these types of settings, those are obviously work events. I don't think that's the biggest issue around alcohol in the workplace. You can prove me wrong. I'm happy to be wrong on this one, but I'm curious about the the effectiveness of our team, of our employees, and of ourselves. Let's talk about. We talked about the NFL with the pronunciation of my last name prior to recording. Those games are held on Sundays. People get, intoxicated. They have a couple too many beers maybe on Sunday nights, and we roll into work Sunday morning. Well, the NFL is also on Monday night, and it's also on Thursday night. So 3 days a week, 3 mornings a week, we're rolling in after having maybe one too many beers at the pub. How is alcohol affecting our performance in the workplace?
And of course, the huge irony of that is that the NFL is used massively to promote alcohol. I mean, Budweiser happen to be 2 of the top 10 Super Bowl advertisers. So, Bud and Bud Light purchase so much advertising between them. They take 2 of the top 10 slots. So, yeah, I mean, the NFL is massively used to promote alcohol. Now, let's think about those NFL players. Look, I know he's a bit of an acquired taste. You either love him or you hate him, don't you? But Tom Brady, 7 Super Bowls. You can't really argue with that, can you?
No.
Never drank a drop. Like totally and utterly sober the whole of his career. And more American football players now are turning away from drink, either completely in the regular season or just completely the whole time, because they value, their high performance, and high performance and alcohol are fundamentally incompatible. That goes for the sporting field, but it also goes for the business arena. So if we look at some statistics about what most people would consider moderate drinking, most people would consider 2 drinks moderate drinking. Yet 2 drinks is enough to reduce the effectiveness of your sleep by about 24%. So that's going to affect the deep sleep, that REM sleep, the bit where you lay down memories and really recharge and really reset your mind for the day. So it has an effect on your sleep. A couple of drinks is enough to increase your cortisol level by about 18%. And I'm sure your listeners are all smart enough to know that cortisol is the stress hormone. So if you're drinking alcohol to reduce your stress, I have some bad news for you. It does the exact opposite. It increases your stress. And incidentally, it does it at totally the wrong time of the day. The point of the day when you want your cortisol to be lowest is in the evening, which is, of course, when most people drink alcohol. I could go on, the effect on learning. So a couple of drinks is enough to actually reduce your ability to remember things the next day. Actually drinking 2 days after you've learned something will affect your recall of drinking it. It will reduce your brain size. Study came out recently, longitudinal study, 30 years, thousands of people in the UK. They found that people drinking 14 units there or thereabouts a week, that's probably 7 drinks. That's, realistically 1 a day. Maybe 3.5 on the weekend. That was enough to reduce the size of their brains measurably. So if you value your brain, if you value concentration, if you value your sleep, if you value productivity in any way, then rethinking alcohol is a very good thing to do.
Well, that's concerning because I don't think my brain can get any smaller as is. So I should stop drinking. I'm kidding. But no, that's really interesting stuff, but especially about when you say even having a drink 2 days after learning something can affect your recall of it. I mean, you don't learn about this stuff because why? Because Budweiser is the biggest ad buyer in the most consumed television in the United States. That's why you don't hear about it, because it would really affect their bottom line. But anyway, that's a topic for a different day. I'm curious to hear, this is all fascinating and really, really important information to know. What's your personal journey? Like what brings you here? What makes you so passionate about this topic and spreading the word?
Drastically reducing the size of my brain over 20 years. That's what it is. Yeah, I'm like a lot of people. I discovered alcohol when I was a teenager, and I thought all of my Christmases had come at once. I thought it filled in so many gaps in my personality. And when I started off, I didn't drink that much. I only drank with people. It was very social. But as the years went on, I started drinking with less people, but I started drinking a lot more, and I took it to its logical conclusions. I ended up drinking a couple of bottles of wine every night, and I was miserable. It was, standing in the way of so much that I wanted to do with my life. It was making me unhappy. It was making me feel terrible. So when I stopped, yeah, there was like a free pass to joy and freedom and self-respect and happiness and energy and focus and concentration and all of that good stuff. And that's why I'm so super passionate about it. I want to share that with people. I don't want to keep that to myself. I want everybody to feel that way.
Yeah, that's a beautiful mission. When you were kind of in that phase of your life, though, what did the other people around you say? Did they even know? Because I've heard that from a lot of different people too. Is I had no idea. I would have never guessed that Duncan had this going on. So what was that like?
Yeah, no, yeah. Some people still don't quite believe me. They think I'm just telling a story. But yeah, I mean, I was outwardly very successful. I was, a beautiful wife, very successful in local government. I was mayor of my hometown at a disturbingly young age. And, from one point of view, it all looked like it was going very, very well. And I would go to a lot of events, I'd go to a lot of networking stuff, business, politics stuff. Often there would be alcohol there, and I would be very, very careful when I was out. I would only ever drink one. I say I did a lot of speaking. I do a lot of speaking now. When I was in politics, you just got asked to say a few words because that's like speaking without the fee, isn't it? Anyway, so when I was saying a few words, I would never ever drink. So I tried it once, and it just does not work. I made this joke that you need to understand geopolitics and the X factor to get, and it just like died. So so there were many events where I would go and everybody else would be drinking and I would be sober. So yeah, a lot of people would look at me, thought I was a very restrained and controlled guy. Of course, what they didn't know was I would then go home and drink a couple of bottles of wine on my own, because actually it always felt more comfortable drinking on my own when there weren't people around.
Yeah, that makes sense too. And that's why a lot of people would never know, right? Because you're alone. They're not with you. So when we move over to, talking about this in the workplace, whether it's one of our audience members who maybe has a similar situation, or they have an employee or several employees on their team who could probably relate to that. How do you approach this conversation? Like, what's the first step, whether it's yourself internally to take? What did you do? And how do you approach somebody else without having them get triggered or get angry at you and maybe quit? Because you want to help the person, right? You want to help them increase their performance, not from a company standpoint, but from a personal standpoint. Like, you want all those things that you just described. So how do
Yeah.
you approach that conversation, both with yourself and with others who you love?
So with yourself, if you're having the conversation, you've started, you're doing a good job. I mean, the first step is always awareness. You can't solve a problem that you're not aware of. And, if you've become aware of it, you've started to realize that it is an issue and you need to do something about it, then great. You have taken that first step. Like, seriously, pat yourself on the back. However, don't sit down, because there are a few more steps that you've got to take. Now, I could honestly spend the next 45 minutes talking about the variety of recovery journeys that are out there, but there are a lot of different ways. So just jump on the internet and type sober into the social medias and find a few people and get yourself a little bit educated. You can go straight to AA if you want to. It works very well for some people, doesn't work for other people. You can just go and hire a sober coach straight away. Works very well for some people, not right for everybody. There's a lot of different options out there. So kind of do a bit of exploring, meet a few people online, join a few groups, ask them what they did. What resonates with you is probably what's going to work for you. So yeah, acknowledge that you've got a problem. That's such a huge step. And then go and get yourself educated a little bit. If you want to circumvent that, just drop me a line. I'm more than happy to give you that kind of 45-minute spiel. But I don't want to take up too much of your listeners' time. And I want to get onto that idea of how do you help somebody who has a problem? Well, the great thing about most businesses now is that they're starting to really think a lot about well-being, and they're starting to think a lot about mental health, and they're starting to really engage with those two subjects. The problem is that they haven't realized that one of the prime determinants of your mental health is the amount you drink. Any mental health problems that you have are going to be exacerbated by drinking alcohol, and one of the prime determinants of your well-being is the amount you drink, and any well-being problems that you have are going to be massively exacerbated by drinking alcohol. So it's about putting it into those two areas. How would you help somebody if they had a problem around sleep or exercise or diet? You wouldn't kind of be all judgmental about them. You'd be kind, you'd empathize, and you'd try and find a solution, because actually finding a solution is good for them. It's good for the bottom line as well. And again, we've destigmatized so much of mental health. Unfortunately, we've sort of forgotten to destigmatize drinking, which is a mental health problem. I mean, literally, it's in the Diagnostics and Statistics Manual. You can look it up. It's on page 472.
That's funny. As you were describing that, though, it kind of popped in my head. We look back. It was before my time, I will admit that, but I've seen studies on this. Smoking in at least the United States, it was cool. There were commercials, there's magazine ads, there's all these things about how cool it was to smoke. And now, of course, we know it kills you in a relatively short amount of time in a very painful and miserable way. So shout out to those of you who want to quit smoking. But alcohol, it sounds like, is kind of on a similar trajectory as cigarettes in the tobacco industry. Where do you see that overlap? Like, where are we in because you even said there we've destigmatized mental health. Is that the next step, is to kind of take on the whole alcohol industry? That's a big beast. That's a moneymaker, tax dollars. You're taking a lot of people here, Duncan.
Yeah,
What's
well,
next?
I mean, the only thing that you really need to know about it being a big beast is that it is a big beast that costs us a lot of money. It does not contribute to the economy in any way, shape, or form. There are about 1 billion studies proving this. Like any country where the maths has ever been done, it has always come out that alcohol costs the economy at least 3 times what it generates in terms of tax dollars. In the UK, it's ridiculous the amount of money it costs in terms of healthcare, in terms of social care, in terms of policing. That alone does not cover the tax that alcohol provides, and that is not even to consider the amount of lost productivity. So what alcohol costs businesses is vastly exceeds what it costs us in terms of healthcare and policing and all of that sort of stuff. So you can look at the statistics in a lot of different ways. The most reputable studies, in my opinion, if you apply them to the 2023, it would have cost the American economy about 430 billion last year, simply in terms of lost productivity. That's bigger than Apple. Just to put that in context, that's how much alcohol costs the American economy. It's enormous. In fact, in the UK in 2023, it worked out at about 53 billion, which is almost identical to the amount of money that every company paid in corporation tax in the whole of the UK. So yeah, look, I mean, alcohol is a tax on business, and that's what we need to start seeing, that it is not some kind of like pleasurable thing that you can do on the weekend. Because you know what? That was what people thought about smoking 40 years ago, and we need to kind of catch up with smoking. And I think smoking is such a fantastic example. I was thinking about this morning. I'm in reasonably good shape. I plan to be around for at least another 50 odd years. So in that time, smoking tobacco will be a thing of the past everywhere in the whole world. Nobody will be smoking tobacco anymore by then. It's becoming so much more of a thing of the past. We've still got a lot of work to do, but we're getting there. And that is a fight that will have been won in my lifetime. It will have gone from when I was born, 60% of the adult population smoking, to when I die, nobody smoking. So that's definitely a fight that we are winning. And a lot of people have put a lot of hard work into that. And that fills me full of joy and hope, because I think we can do exactly the same thing with alcohol.
That is so cool. I love how you compare those two, and also kind of give us a time frame. I think I agree with you. I think that's, well, smoking, definitely 100% agree, if not sooner. You see generation by generation the lack of adoption of smoking. I know there's different, there's e-cigarettes and all these other things that are fundamentally the same. If you put smoke in your lungs, not good. It's math is math, right? But I see this with alcohol too. Younger generations are not drinking as much as their parents' generations or older generations before them. And I think you're right. And I think it's also encouraging for me as a human being, but also as a business owner and entrepreneur. This stuff, like you said, is costing us more than we're willing to accept. And I think if more people hear your story and your stats and just the sheer facts behind it, I think we'll open a lot more eyes. So Duncan, I can't thank you enough for being here. Where can the listeners go to learn more about you, maybe take the next step or share that next step with a friend?
Well, look, I mean, never mind thanking me. I've got to thank you for giving me the opportunity. And like, I hope everybody can, go onto their favorite podcast channel and give you a 5-star review to help you
Thank you.
spread the word and, all of the wonderful stuff that you're doing. Anyway, getting in touch with me is really, really easy if you can spell Bhaskaran Brown, but most people cannot even pronounce it. So to make life easy for people, just put getover.uk, that's getover.uk, into your favorite search engine. That will take you to a bit of my website where you can download a copy of my first book, Get Over Indulgence. It's totally free. That is my gift to your listeners. It is a fairly good starting point. If you want to know a little bit more about how these things work, then it's a pretty good starting point. I don't want to make it sound like you'll learn something though, because mostly it is just fun. It's just a nice story with some jokes in it. It's basically my journey from drinking, smoking, eating junk food to, being happy and healthy and running along in the morning, wondering when we're going to kill off tobacco for good, kind of thing. But yeah, that's the best way to get in touch. And of course, that is actually a bit of my website. So you can find out more about what I do, link with me on the socials. I do an awful lot on LinkedIn. So if you want to find out more about, alcohol and business, LinkedIn is where I hang out. Please feel free to connect with me. Ask me any questions. I could talk about this stuff all day long, but we're running out of time. So
Yeah, this is fantastic. We can't talk about it all day here. We got to get back to whatever we were doing before we started listening to this. But wherever you're listening or watching, if you're watching, it's on the screen. It's also in the show notes down below, wherever you're watching or listening. All of that info, Duncan's socials, the website, all that fun stuff. So go check it out. If this resonates with you, if you want to dig more into it, P.S. I encourage you to. That's just a personal note, is explore what this is costing you in your life and see if there's an opportunity for improvement there. But Duncan, I can't thank you enough for being on the show. This was fantastic. Thank you for bringing this topic to light.
It's an absolute pleasure. Thank you for allowing me to rant about smoking and do some NFL references. So it's all good.
It was a good time. And thank you for wherever you're watching and listening. Make sure you go subscribe. We want to have you back. We put out 5 episodes a week to help you build a more harmonious business and life. And we did both of those things in this episode for sure. So we'll see you on tomorrow's episode of Harmonious at Lunch. Thanks for being here.